So I am fully wired. We tested this earlier. And for those of you who are here, you're not really late for a meeting that was going to be happening on December 5th. We just forgot to change that slide. December 5th was our preview with the leadership team here at Horizon House. So we did, based on their input, we made some updates to other things, but we just never went back and changed the intro slide. So welcome. So this is an update on the master plan projects. I know you guys have had more recent updates on the West Tower. So this is going back into a lot of the other renovation projects that are happening within Horizon House that'll be happening before the West Tower. We'll look at the schedule, but today I'll basically be reviewing some of the things that we looked at. I think it was a while ago now that we did the last master plan update, like a year and a half, two?
I believe it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So November of 2021.
Right. So at that time, when we gave the presentation, Anderson Hall was still the old Anderson Hall. But behind the scenes, there have been a lot of things going on. In addition to then the review of the master plan projects that we talked about before, I was going to present some things that everybody's pretty excited about, some upgrades that are happening within assisted living as well. So it might not be a full 2 hours. I think, questions can happen, I think, during a little bit. When we look at the master plan projects, I'd like to get through what we call connections, dining, and bistro first before we have some discussion about that. But then after each section, I think we can, have questions and things. So without further ado, the main master plan projects that we have been looking at, and to see if I can, there was a little bit of a cursor, but we'll just have to follow along. We just had a meeting about using the space here, and so I know as a presenter that I'm not supposed to leave the lectern. Otherwise, weird things happen with lighting and stuff, and so I will kind of point this way. So the yellow on this diagram is Anderson Hall, where we are right now. In terms of orientation, University Street is the street across the bottom of the screen. Then Terry Avenue to my right is also to the right on the image. So that's the project that's already done. In terms of the sequencing of the next set of projects, the area that's called offices and bistro, that's in green at the bottom along University, is the next phase that'll happen. Right after that will be the dining and hearth area, which has had some changes there as well. And then on the far right-hand side, and you'll see on the schedule quite a bit later, there's the lobby, and then there's sort of mailroom, offices, package room, a whole bunch of things that'll be happening within that space there. So on the second floor, what we will be talking about today for the assisted living areas are the areas that are shown in gold. So there's a dining and servery, there's a new activity room, and there's some other amenity spaces, including some improvements to a nurse office, sort of more distributed in the space there, as well as a living room space that we'll talk about. And then on the second floor, what we won't be talking about today are we're redoing that central tower, currently memory care spaces, into the leadership offices as well as the assisted living offices. So they'll be in an office space adjacent to the assisted living spaces. I don't know if anybody's been up there, their current offices are kind of tucked in a little hole in the middle of the building with no access to air or daylight or anything. And then the last piece of that assisted living is on the third floor. We call it the servery project, but it's servery dining and the private dining space adjacent to that as well. So the big picture on the schedule then for all of the work that's going on, the first section at the top of this are those assisted living projects that are on the level 2 and level 3, and those are both basically through the course of 2024. They'll be undertaken. The first part of that is the assisted living serveries on the second and third floor, which will be happening at the same time. with the construction dates starting in sort of mid-March at this point, and then running through those projects. And then right after those are finished, the construction team for this, which is will be Abbott Construction, is the team that we're working with on these projects. They'll roll into doing the central tower remodels for the office areas. And then we're still working on a lot of design work on bistro and the dining and the East Tower lobby. And you can see on the schedule here, for those, the construction that we're anticipating is happening in starting in 2025 for the bistro first, and then rolling into the dining. So through basically thinking about the assisted living is construction 2024, and then the other level 1 projects are 2025. And part of that in the East Tower, the lobby and office thing, the real construction for a lot of that will be quite a bit down the line. The current thinking is that full construction project will be happening to coincide with the opening of the West Tower, so that we can sort of slot all the pieces together at the right moment. But we're looking at right now we're showing 2025. That could be earlier, that could be later. But doing F&E, which is furniture, furnishings, and equipment. So basically doing some small upgrades within the lobby without doing anything bigger in terms of construction prior to the other work. And then the West Tower, you can see the design going on through the end of 2025. They would start demolition and then construction in the early 2026, and that will run through about April of 2029 for the West Tower work. And there are big letters at the top that say draft current thinking. And you guys have all been here long enough to know that the schedules are very flexible. Things change, thinking changes. Even some of what we're showing today visually, it's very early on in design. So don't feel like anything you're looking at is so crisp and clean that it's done, because I can guarantee that it will go through many changes before we get to even in Anderson Hall, I can think of a lot of changes that happened before it was completed. So because it's been 2 years, it's a good reminder early on, actually about 3 years ago when we started working with Horizon House, there were some sessions that happened with some of the residents here. And some of the bigger takeaways that we had from that had to do with Horizon House and the uniqueness here. What residents feel was there's sort of a happy buzz. It's a feeling like home. It's not a corporate kind of setting. It's a place that you can feel comfortable in. It was interesting, favorite spaces at Horizon House. I know the Orchid Lounge was one that had come up, but that idea that there are pocket seating areas, there's informal places where you can kind of land. I thought it was interesting that also dining spaces came up, but at the same time, the space I'd like to change, more variety of spaces for dining. So I think you'll see when I present dining and the bistro that's something that we've taken to heart quite a bit. And then the flow of spaces feeling a bit cramped was another issue that came up. And actually taking a step back for a couple of steps back. The other thing that you will see on this diagram is there's a red dashed line that kind of runs through the center. That's the circulation coming through the spaces. And one of the notes that we've made in here on the circulation note on the left, when the West Tower comes together, the number of places to make connections between the different parts, the different towers on campus will be increasing. And a lot of that will be happening at the lower levels. Next week, I don't want to steal Ken's thunder, but next week we'll be doing another presentation similar to this for the West Tower, also on Monday, hopefully with the right date on it. And we can look at a lot more in depth. I think the last master plan presentation, he was focusing a lot on the amenity spaces and circulation. So that's something to think about. This is all things that are also being prepared to work now, but also to fit in well when the new projects come online. Those visioning sessions, we had a lot of the red dot, green dot exercise, we call it, where we have a lot of images up, people put red dots and green dots. And these are some of the images that came came into play that people were really responding well to. In the current spaces at Horizon House, a lot of these are very high volume spaces, and we're not going to be able to do anything about that in the existing spaces just because of the constraints. But in the West Tower, you'll see as well that there would be some of that kind of higher volume space coming in. But the integration of indoor, outdoor plants, trying to take advantage of the views to the outside, I think is something that is strong in all of the work that we're doing now. The other thing that we have been thinking about is what are the spaces at Horizon House that have a more direct connection to the outside? When you think about the University Street, which is on the bottom of this diagram, there's not a lot of trees there. There's some as you step around the entry lobby into the East Tower. You've been able to pull a little bit more greenery into that space. But really the views, as you can see here, out onto Terry along this side are really great in terms of bringing in some of that outdoor nature. And then on the dining, the terrace dining room, that view out to the planters is really immediate. This is an older diagram, and we are not actually going to be putting seating outside there at this point. When we look at the dining, I can show you, but the current planter setup is going to remain with the renovations that are happening. So first floor projects, I don't think I need to repeat on this, but we'll work in first to what we're calling the dining connection. So actually, I will step back for a second. That dashed line moving through the space, that's what we're going to be talking about right now and how that connects through to the other pieces. And this is very, I just made a, okay. Somehow not everything came through on the PDF. So there's, basically we're working, I'm gonna, it wasn't just the date that didn't get updated well when we were generating a PDF in this, but
if you'd like, I can, okay, so imagine that there's a floor plan, an entire floor plan here. You got parts of it. And so here's our current dining room. West Tower is that way.
Right.
And anything else? Anything else you want me to show?
There's a beautiful seating area in the bistro.
Beautiful. You can't see it, but it's really beautiful, and it extends over here.
But the main thinking is that we're trying to bring together in the arrows that point to dining and bistro. We're trying to bring together the entries into both of those. So the blue arrow into dining is the main entry in where there's a host stand. The orange sort of circle with a dashed line beneath it are secondary entries into the dining area. So that while there's a flow in and out of that space, there's still a primary entry to go past the host stand. And then into the bistro, what we were looking at is a bigger opening into the bistro, kind of wider than what's there now with a large ramped entry, which we will look at in the other diagrams. And with an increase in the seating that's on the sort of outside edge of that. In this, so we'll just look at the views a little bit now too. So this is the existing, you can see the existing host stand. On the left-hand side, the entry into the bistro area right now with some seating that's down at the main floor level of dining. And then, as you guys know, there's about a 6-inch rise. So there's additional seating on the west side of the entry into the bistro. So what we're looking at doing is increasing that sort of raised entry experience, making a wider opening that's just a single opening. The ramp itself is about 8 feet wide, and then the opening into the bistro itself is about 14 or 15 feet wide. So really trying to open up that space quite a bit. and then trying to use the spaces that are behind the seating as a kind of extended gallery space. So you can see seating against the wall, and then a lot of artwork on the back wall there. And then in the distance, sort of the glow beyond the gentleman that's walking away from us in the image, that will be the opening into the West Tower. So the planning for the West Tower, it's basically a straight shot. As you go across, you'll go right into the West Tower on level 1. This again then is that opening into the bistro. You can see the column with space on both sides, one with access to the seating. And so that's really being changed into a single event. The other part of that we'll be talking about when we talk about the bistro is that we're actually, because the offices are going away, we're opening through the bistro all the way through to university. And then the other thing that we hadn't looked at before, I don't believe, with our 2-year ago presentation, was what that view would look like coming from the West Tower, or for a period of time from the West Wing. And so we're looking at trying to create some additional pockets of seating that aren't as defined as dining necessarily, but can give people places to stop and chat along that route. Loose furniture, things that can be changed if necessary, moved around, set up for different kinds of events. So then the dining space itself, what we are looking at in terms of the renovation is the space of the dining room, with the exception of the private dining room. So the changes that we're looking at will be happening within the main open space of dining. It's the plans that are not working. I do have a copy of it, but I will just, I think we'll probably work off of the visuals a little bit more than I was anticipating. So you can see again that main circulation of the blue arrows that are leading to West Wing and West Tower, leading to the East Tower in the lobby, leading into the bistro and heading into dining. And then the dashed orange lines in here are basically showing a seating area where there's a lot of circulation paths through the seating. This would be the entry that I was talking about with a host stand on the way into dining. There's been an alignment. We're trying to take advantage of the skylights that are in the space, which sometimes aren't as evident as you'd like them to be, sometimes because it's bad weather, and sometimes it's just the positioning of other things around them. So looking at opening those up as we can visually. And then the straight shot back in this image is to that private dining room, the existing private dining room in the back. On the left, you can see that there's starting to be orientation sort of north-south in the space, so that there's plants and other things that are visually breaking up the space, but leaving large expanses of space in between the column lines within the room. This then is sitting in the center of the room, looking back towards the east wall. The wall in the distance is currently, I think there's one of the Robert Durham watercolors there. And it's a space that we're looking to add a little bit more texture to, but also gives a feeling of that layering of the space, so that they're creating smaller spaces within the larger volume, but again, with enough movable seating that there can be some changes made as things move around. This is in the same space, but this time looking back towards the bistro. So all of the seating here, there's some fixed seating for against the solid walls, and then the movable seating in the center for being able to change things around. The other thing that we have been looking at within these spaces are how to create pockets of space for walkers and wheelchairs that are a little bit more dispersed than you might have today. And so as we've been looking at the design of the spaces, we're looking at trying to create stations where the kitchen staff and servers can come and bring food out, but that also have places to tuck in walkers and wheelchairs at the same time. Again, you can see on the left-hand side, the windows out. Those are the windows out to the existing planted areas. Hydrangeas, tulips, seasonal flowers, and all the rest. So the other part that we're looking at is the bistro.
Incidentally, Sean, I'm being told that if you were to log in through the web browser into your slide deck, it would not show the problems that you're experiencing.
Is everybody okay if we do that quickly?
That way, it's easier to show better context. So although Sean is saying that the perimeter flower beds will be preserved, well, what perimeter flower beds are we talking about? And that floor plan will help indicate that. So hopefully this will not take very long. We'll see. Nina?
Nina, do you remember your Google password to log in so we could get the pass?
And for those of you who have not met our interior designer, Nina.
Sorry. Nobody can see. Yeah, I always have trouble logging into mine, so it just opens automatically on my regular laptop, and I don't have to remember what my login is.
Right. Yeah, slide 19, I think, was where.
Oh, I can. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right. Look at that. So, if you don't mind a slight revisit for what we had been looking at before, but this gives a much better idea of all that seating stuff I was talking about in dining. So you can see in the upper left-hand, in the center top, is that cursor showing up at all? Okay. Yes. So much better. So that's the current private dining room. We're leaving that alone except paint and probably a little bit of work on the glass to refresh the glass openings. But basically, each in this center area here, this square has a skylight in the center of that. There's another skylight in the seating area here. This is the wall that I was mentioning that has the watercolor on it today. Another skylight right at the host stand in the entry there, and then also the focus of the entry into the bistro. And then there's another skylight that's aligning with this secondary entry into the dining space. And you can see then, the third entry into dining as well. So the thinking about this perimeter space, so these are the spaces where the skylights are. It's a much higher ceiling, well, much in Horizon House terms, it's a relatively higher ceiling. There's a very small dome space that leads to each of the skylights. And then it's around the perimeter, So this is the current planters here along the outside edge with the service walkway. And then around that perimeter, we're leaving the ceiling that's there now, letting that feel a little bit lower, a little bit more intimate, with the idea being this can be a little bit more of that white tablecloth dining. And then these center areas being a little bit more of what was it, the fast casual, I think is what they were referring to it on the, yeah.
Right, casual.
Yeah, we have Morrison has an arm called Scopus, and they're kitchen design people, and we've been working with them on working on the kitchen areas, working on the serveries upstairs. But they have a lot of lingo, and so fast casual is one of those things. So you can see then this walkway along from the existing lobby through to West Wing, and then as it's the West Tower, you can see a little bit here in that plan view that really is a straight shot with glass all along the wall there out to the decks and things that are below. Some of which, again, you'll see next week will actually be at this level. So you'll be able to walk out of doors right in that area to some outdoor spaces and planting and seating. What I was talking about in the bistro here then was increasing the amount of seating that's in that little raised area, those little platforms outside. And the other, I'm gonna move forward to bistro before I get into the rest of that, because there's a lot to see in the bistro area as well. So we did look through these. Now you can see the beautiful diagram showing where the view is coming from, where you're standing and what you're looking at, those existing spaces. And then in dining, again, the plan a little bit more upfront, but trying to blend in a certain amount of fixed seating as well as leaving the flexibility for more open rearrangement of seats in there, trying to get a variety of table sizes and orientations into the space. We've heard for larger groups, the preference at Horizon House is round tables, so we make sure that we had some space to get those in as well. So coming into the bistro then, this is a significant change from what we have today. As you may know, this is the Robert Durham room in the lower right-hand corner. And then that really adjacent to that today is all of the leadership team offices. It's very closed off kind of back corridor. And what we're looking to do is really bring the bistro into that space. Take advantage of very large windows that are along University. And let me back up one. And also increase the amount of food service that's provided within the bistro currently. So I should probably keep my finger off of there. So as you come into the space in the center, the arrow that's directly across from the host stand, you'll be facing the university coming into that space. As you come in on your right-hand side or on the left-hand side on screen will be a coffee bar. What is being anticipated in that area is a real expansion of food service during the day to allow both kind of 24, well, not 24/7, but while you guys are awake in normal business hours, the opportunity to get food there, sometimes the tapas kind of small plate things, or even potentially at breakfasts and lunch, more made to order kind of food in again, a more casual setting. Within that space, there's, as you come in, if you turn to your left, when we'll look at some better views of this, there's a couple of more private dining spaces, a couple of booths, a fixed seat against the wall with chairs adjacent to that. And then beyond that, there's a space we've been calling the pantry. I think it had been initially referred to as grab and go, which always sounds somewhat illicit. So the marketplace was one of the names. We started calling it the pantry just as a working title because we wanted a space that felt like, oh, I'm missing this, from my house. You go into the pantry, you grab what you need from there. And so we'll look at a view of that as well. But basically, similar to what you have now, where there's some food that's either already prepared or drinks or things that you could get on your own available. But we're toning down the neon, or not the neon, the fluorescent lights, and trying to make it into something that would feel more like what you'd have in your house. As you move through that space, though, all the way out to the wall to university, there's really that variety of seating in there. We're trying to incorporate, again, some large round tables, smaller places, nooks for people to sit, really take advantage of seating in front of the windows and that southern light coming in through those windows. And then on the far right on this plan, the furthest east in that space, we've created what we're calling a private lounge, which is a space that could be reservable, but it would be a space like with a television in it. You could close off if you wanted to invite friends over to view a particular event on the television. That would be possible. A little bit more sort of couch seating as well. So it's not just seating for dining explicitly, but trying to really increase the opportunities for people to use the space all day long.
And notice that this would be in addition to preserving the existing Robert Durham room.
Yes.
So we're addressing the need from the request of residents to add more meeting spaces. And this particular meeting space that Sean's showing as the private lounge will open up a little bit to the bistro. So it'll feel like it's part of another dining experience option.
And I should say on the left-hand side, in the grayed out area, there's still some of this area that we're not updating at this point. Those will continue to be offices. So people that you would be needing to talk to here at Horizon House will still be available over in that area. But the majority of that leadership team will be up on the second floor as well. It also gives us a possible expansion space in the future. So then this is the view coming in from the walkway. So straight ahead, you'll notice a lot of solid wall pieces in this area. There's a very interesting combination of columns and utility shafts and chases coming through the space. So we're trying to take advantage of those to create some more enclosure of spaces. So on the right-hand side, then you'll see that coffee bar. Even though it's a bar, it's not counter height, it's regular seat height with a slightly raised portion for the people that are working behind the counter. On the left-hand side, then you can also see some of that additional casual seating that might be, seating around a table. So then looking into that space, as I mentioned, there's a couple of booths on the left-hand side, just one seat deep, for people to sit over there, and then a little bit wider expanse on the right-hand side. And then in the background, you see that the pantry space, and again, the kind of toning down on fluorescent lights and trying to make it feel a little bit more like a pantry that you might have in your home. This is one of those spaces along University, again, taking care of the cat light, the kind of nice light coming in from the south, and having tables that will be able to take advantage of that, from that sort of round casual seating to the pieces on the left that can be smaller groups or puzzles or whatever it is that you guys want to set up there. And then looking across that space in the background here, you see that private lounge space. So it's got wide doors. So in the times when it's not reserved, it'll be a very wide opening, 8 foot wide or so, 6 to 8 foot wide opening to get into the space. So it feels like it's part of the flow. But if you do want to reserve it for personal event, then those doors can slide shut. So that's the first part. And I think if there are questions now. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We are increasing the capacity of Horizon House by over 100 persons. Yet it looks like the capacity in the terrace dining room will go from 112 to 116 only. And it looks like there are only a couple of those tables for communal dining. and we're trying to encourage more communal dining. Comments, please.
Okay. So you are correct. We went from 112 to 116. There's another 16 spaces, I believe, in the private. Is it 16, I think, in private dining? Yeah. And then the other thing that we are doing, get to the bistro. So this is the big change in the bistro. The existing bistro has 18 seats in it. And so we're bringing in another 70. We're increasing from 18 to 77. Yeah.
So in the lower left-hand corner, we're showing the seat counts. And you're exactly right, George. The intention is that we proportionally increase our capacity for food services that yes, so we're showing existing bistro sits 18 people. The new bistro will sit 77.
And then as far as the seating goes,
I'm
yeah,
next, Eli.
to finish off George's second half of the question, yeah, the idea there, and that's one of the areas that we have a lot of flexibility now, is to figure out, what the right mix is. So I think in the time between now and when furniture gets ordered, which will be about a year and a half from now, I think we do need to really look at what the right balance is and talk about how those spaces can be set up.
Yeah, my question, the noise level in the dining room is almost intolerable a good portion of the time. It looks like we've got more space in the bistro. People can choose to sit where they might not have someone talking in their ear. From the diagram of the dining room, it makes me shudder. It looks like the seats are even closer together.
Well, and so in terms of the seating capacity, we have pretty much the same number of seats. There's 4 more in that in the dining area. So the other thing that we're doing is working with our acoustical engineer, the same one actually we worked with on the spaces in here to try and address that. We've got in the areas where we have carpeting, I think that's going to help. We're looking at options for using the small areas of dividers that we have to try and absorb some of the sound in that space as well. A lot of the sound transmission happens at the level where you're seating. So having a banquette that might be a little bit higher that has an absorbing material on it can help to address that too. The other thing that trying to think what the best image is for that, and it might be the plan.
And Sean, can you address Joan's comment though? Are the seats actually closer, or is that just the way the renderings are showing them?
It's the way the renderings are showing them today. Again, we're working with the same seat count. So it's just the way that things always look a little tighter in the diagram than they do when you see them laid out in the space, because when in the diagrams we showed chairs for the most part pulled out from the table. So there's I think there's a little bit of an optical illusion there. The other thing that we are looking at with the 3 bands of plants and slightly higher walls that are separating the walkway, the corridor between spaces from dining, is to give a little bit more sound absorption as well, so that there's not as much noise coming from outside the area for dining, even though it's all an open space.
Sir, this way.
Oh, yeah.
I notice you're having this kind of flooring everywhere. Is that noisier than carpet now?
It is, well, in the areas that we are, the seating areas, it is carpet. It's actually, this is actual wood. What we're looking at here is more of the resilient flooring, like is going in now in the elevator lobbies in the central and east towers, if you've seen that. It is a little bit more resilient than, reflective acoustically than the carpet would be, for sure. The brown here is the more resilient flooring. The dark area around the sides is the carpet. So again, that's something that we are going to try and find what the right balance is and work through with the acoustical engineer. He's taken measurements of the existing conditions. So that's what we're working with as our starting point.
Okay, so for questions, we're just gonna come up with a system so people don't get upset about who's asking questions when. We'll go section by section. So we kind of started in the middle, then we came over here. Peter has his hand up for a while, so I'll let Peter go. Then we'll go down to Lauren, her section down there can ask any questions. Then we'll check out in the fireside lounge. And then we'll kind of repeat. So we'll go one question per section at a time to make sure everyone gets a fair chance, but we'll let Peter go and then Lauren.
Oh, I hope this is worth it. Sean, why does the approach to the host stand narrow the way it does? And it also, and what it does is, aside from being interesting that it's doing that, it then leaves these trapezoidal shapes in the seating area of the bistro, which has a lot of dead space.
Sorry, you're talking about the host stand.
As you approach from both of the existing towers and the new west tower, that walkway narrows considerably. The bistro area juts out and leaving a trapezoidal shape in the bistro, which is look like dead space. What's going on?
So I think this is another one of the slightly optical illusions because it's actually quite a wide space that's available. The narrowing down of the trapezoidal space is still about 10 feet across. If you look at the width of the opening into the bistro as being 8 feet, it's a little bit wider than that you'll be moving through. One of the things we were trying to do on the seating for the bistro, so that seating that's raised up on the 6-inch plinth, was to give a generous enough space so it was easy for residents to maneuver in to use the seats. To chat with people on the other side of the wall if they wanted to do that as well. So I think in terms of the, again, it's like sort of like the seating in the area. I think it's the manipulation of space there is making it look narrower in plan than it really is. If we go to, I think it was the connections ones where we have those views. Yeah, so if you look at that as the pinch point, that's still over 10 feet across for coming into the space.
And between the corner of that that platform and the host station is
Yeah.
10 feet.
Yeah.
And is the host station intended to serve the bistro, or that continue to be drop-in?
The bistro is drop-in. The host station is anticipated to be for the dining. So people who've made reservations or need to make reservations are working within that. We're looking at that as well, because as you've noticed in the plan, it's big. And the existing one is actually pretty large as well. And one of the discussions we're having is, can it be smaller? Does it need to be that big? What are the things that are going to be needed in there? In this instance, we have some of the service area attached to the back end of that. So there's some places, drop down spaces for servers to get food distributed, but we've got time to make some changes if we need to.
And Sean, do we currently know the distance between the existing bistro platform and the host station? Not off the top of your head. You don't have that memorized?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Nina, do you have any?
Yep, that previous. Yep, this one.
Yeah,
That looks about
it looks similar. Yeah, I
Right.
think it's about
10 feet.
Yeah.
Looking at the proposal for the dining room, you're retaining the most attractive feature, which is the border of flowers around the outside. A lot of people think the dining room is really quite lovely. And the question is, how much thought did you give to doing a refresh in that area instead of a total redo?
Well, I mean, I
that's
assure
gonna-
you, this
yeah.
is just for the most part, a refresh. We really are retaining the perimeter of planters. And it's really the addition of these partition walls that'll help deaden the sound, improve the acoustics. And the big change is
Yeah.
opening up the skylights.
Well said.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the Fireside Lounge have a question? You're on the spot.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll go back in.
This,
So now we're gonna go to the east side of the room. Eli, do you want to select someone down there?
I'm curious if there will be seating in that corridor area, because that's a place where a lot of people sit to wait for their friends that they've made contact, they're going to have food with. It just seems like I have the same concern that Peter does about that trapezoidal area. It narrows the space. I can understand the desire to not make a tunnel between the lobby and the West Tower, which is probably part of your thinking.
Yeah.
But it seems like the space, it still needs to have seating in there for people waiting. And that trapezoid is wasted space, I think.
well, it is a circulation space, but I should, there's a couple of things. One, in the area immediately adjacent to the central tower elevators, you know how there's a couple of sofa and a couple of chairs there currently, that will remain. And then in this area just to the left of the host stand, there's some what we call lounge waiting seating that's immediately adjacent to the host stand. So if I go to the rendering here, on the left-hand side, the kind of very literally wing-back chairs here on the left are seating areas for people who are waiting for a table within the dining room. And then the more casual and slightly farther away seating on the right-hand side with the gentleman in the suit gesticulating to no one, as far as I can tell, that's another area for seating. But I think the lounge seating piece that we were talking about, I'll go to the dining close-up plan here. You can see in this, yeah, Eli, do you mind?
Sure. So we
Caramel.
have occasional seating here, occasional seating here. Again, this is the host station, and occasional seating down here.
Yeah. And the angles on the well, oops, sorry, on the plinth are also they're kind of based on having a continuous flow through the space, but still allowing the people in the farthest corner to have the ability to get into a seat there. So that we didn't want to get things too crowded there because there is the confinement of that outside wall.
And I wanted to jump in quickly. Sorry, this is Nina over here.
Oh,
Hi. To say that we're also thinking of the plinth adjacent to the bistro as additional seating just for that exact purpose. If you're waiting for a table, if you're waiting to connect with another resident or a friend or family member, that can also service that. It's kind of why we have the host stand also right directly across from the bistro, so that can also accommodate for that. You have like a direct line of sight if you are waiting, so that you can kind of be seated, be attended to. Yeah, that's it. I'll stop talking.
The busiest place in the bistro now is the where you go and buy groceries and convenience things and then step right across, 5 feet and pay for it. There's often a line and it organizes itself well. It's very busy. I have two questions. One is, where is that in your diagram?
yeah. So the area
That's what you call a pantry?
that's what we call the pantry. Yeah. So
Okay, and then where do you pay for your stuff?
the current thinking from is that it's a self checkout.
Oh,
right? So
Okay.
we've
All
taken,
right. No, this is important because
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing I've been following is that now it's a good measure of, where things are labor intensive and the bistros and people, the staff have to work very hard and often they have to go across the hall to refill stuff and come back and it looks like you're dispersing some of the staff activity. It's hard to, I'm not sure, but I'm concerned about that. Anyway.
Yeah, and so one of the things that came up, as you know, staffing is an issue, and a lot of service businesses right now. And one of the thoughts was that if there were the ability for the person who's at that coffee bar to see into the pantry was really important. So even though it's some steps away, it's still a visual connection that you have, for them to be able to provide service
Right.
if needed in that pantry area.
That looks, I'm concerned, it looks complicated and
Mm.
Anyway, I guess that's what I'm saying is that easier for, I think even the way it is now, which is relatively close quarters, it's difficult to tell the balancing of the staff has to be interrupted.
Absolutely. And that is a big topic when we're designing is the operations. And we do have, Morrison Food Services and, Lori and, obviously the staff that you're all familiar with, Jeff and Chef Steve, they're all giving their opinions and help guiding the design regarding how can we ensure, and so this is where we expect staff to be stationed and also, right.
Yeah, I think there's a gap here because I think that activity of people coming down and
Actually
getting.
doing it.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, yeah, no, we're hearing what
And-
you're saying, but they're not.
Keep people coming down to the bistro and picking up lunch, dinner. There's a lot that goes on that sustains our whole feeding thing. And including the social connection. Some people are blind or have difficulties selecting things, or when is this going to come in, or did you get my order? And having that spread across between the pantry and this coffee bar doesn't work.
Yeah, I should say the pickup for people who've pre-ordered food will be at the coffee bar. So
That's fine, but there's a lot else. I suggest that you or
Yeah.
someone spend some time in the bistro while this is going on, say around noon, and after that, it's quite complicated and very important for people's social interaction. Some people come out of their apartment, just once or twice a day, and that anyway.
Are there any questions in the right hand group?
We have one.
I have a question. With the destruction of the West Tower, the
West Wing.
area,
Yeah.
West Wing, how many people are not going to be here for the next 5 years? What's the number?
So you mean what the interim population of Horizon House will be
That's correct.
between when West Wing is demolished,
correct.
West Tower opens?
We lose about 25 people a year.
No,
No, I mean,
Total.
what will the population be?
when you destroy that building,
Oh.
how many people will we lose?
Right, so what are we
Oh,
anticipating
the
as
West
being
Wing
the
holds
population?
50 households,
Okay,
or we've got Christie.
so you're making all this change, which is causing a great deal of money at this point, when you can build a beautiful seating area and dining area in the new building. This is quite adequate as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of money that's going into this and lack of people who are paying for it. I'm sorry to say that, but
No, it's okay. I mean, I don't think we will. I mean, there's a couple issues.
this is
One,
this is interim at this point for 5 years when it's not necessary.
Well,
there's a lot of residents who disagree. A lot of residents are saying that we're overdue for some improvements in the dining room. And the bistro needs a lot more elbow room, that it wasn't designed sufficiently the first time around. Especially when you're going up the ramp, the existing ramp is kind of a choke point and people are stepped in. I respect people who say that it is adequate, but I'm getting an unbelievably overwhelming comments to the contrary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other,
I kind of think yes, yes.
yeah.
Are there any questions out here in the fireside lounge? Oh, we have a question.
Yeah, I see a hand even through the window.
See a lounge in the bistro, and lounge often implies wine, beer, and cocktails. I'm wondering if that's part of this plan.
Food service planning, I think, is including the ability to have alcoholic beverages for adults responsibly in the spaces here. So yeah,
Right.
I don't, it's not like the spaces are going to be denied the ability to serve alcohol.
Right, and we've been told specifically to defer the operational type questions. It's always, in development and being discussed, but just like Sean suggested, these are all topics that we're exploring.
And then over here in the left section.
Okay, thank you. I've been, anyway, I'm gonna make one comment that, of course, we might not see the need for it, but I hope that the kitchen is getting more room for storage. I see a lot of coming up and down to B2 and B3 to get stuff for various events, and anyway, so I hope that's being addressed. I would be very grateful if the TDR is somehow quieter, because I have hearing aids. That's a bigger, but what the first thing I saw when I looked at this walkway that you have up here, it feels almost like the prow of a ship. And somehow, because you have that lovely curve for the host stand, even though you show that lovely thing, when you show the photo of the rendering, it doesn't look so rough with the little wall there. But the exterior one, well, I don't know, we'll forget about, that one. Yeah. I feel, because it's curved on the other side, and somehow I feel like a curve on those corners would be better than, and of course it doesn't work the way you've just showed the rendering, but somehow it feels, I don't know, it just feels a little thrusty to me. So that's my 3 takes.
Thrusty.
Okay, no, thank you.
Anyone in the center section, Eli?
Well, and I'm going to say, I think if we hit the last section one last time, it'd be 10:30. I'd like to move into the rest of it, and then we can come back if there's time left at the end to revisit anything too. Yeah.
Okay. You're going to increase the seating in the bistro by quite a bit. And at the present time, there are not that many people that sit in there. They generally tend to take their food and leave. Now, will there be a regular menu available for these people, or will it all be out of, shelves or whatever, that they take their food and either leave or sit down?
Yes. The idea is that we are serving, that there will be some, actually, this is what I'm told specifically. It hasn't been fully developed, but yes, that's the conversation, is to develop more of a table service, as needed in the bistro to accommodate what our needs are. So if, for instance, the dining room is completely overwhelmed with people seating and table service, and the bistro is surprisingly sparse, well, then we'll adjust our operations accordingly. Yeah. And then the second, so question B.
Question B is, in the dining room itself, the plans indicate that there are partitions between the different areas. And I wonder if right now those partitions are like at chest level. Will they go all the way up, or will we still have that ability to see over?
Yeah, I think this image probably shows that pretty well. So they are kind of at mouth level when seated, more or less. And then the space above that is, we're looking at having planters and display things that are visually interrupting the space, but still allow the view through. Yeah. And just to go to the other question a second, in terms of the food service within the bistro, there's a the coffee bar has an equivalent amount of space that's their sort of back of house. So it's another prep kitchen in there that gives them the ability to do a lot more, immediate cooking within that space for the people that are coming up to the counter there too.
We have one question over here.
I recall one of the things that we raised as a big issue in one of the smaller meetings was what to do with all of the wheelchairs and the pull carts. And I had thought that one of the things we were going to show on the plans here is where we're parking all of those carts and where we're parking them at the tables. Because it runs close to 50% of the people come with some sort of a device.
So just like we do now, often staff will grab the, either a chair away from the table so that the diner, the person eating, can sit their wheelchair at the table. That existing chair will just go away to, yeah, I hear your question, George. Well, where on this map will that chair go? Because currently,
yeah, there's a few at the columns. So there, and there, as well as I think those are the main areas that we have actually showing in this.
Oh,
plan.
okay.
Yeah.
So that there's like busser stations at
Right.
the counter. Is that?
Yeah,
is
bus
that
stations.
Is that
because
perhaps-
bus stations only use the space that's the flat surface. So basically taking advantage of that space to be able to tuck some of those underneath as well.
And similarly, if not only does the dining chair go there when somebody needs to come up with a wheelchair, but also staff will stow the walkers as well.
Yeah.
And that's it. I assure everybody that is a conversation that is being considered as part of the design. And as Sean pointed out earlier, the design is not complete.
Yes.
But thank you for the reminder.
We're going to jump up now to the bistro, and everything I said about everything being kind of tentative right now. Wow, the room gets darker when you get to these intro slides, doesn't it? I just realized that. Again, this is something where there'll be a refresh sooner, but we're really looking at 2029 for construction. So we have a little bit of time to think through any of the issues that might come up here. And I'll even preface this by saying there are areas that we're still really trying to get to a basic idea for the issues of security, access, and at the same time feeling open are really tough ones. So there's a lot that's been working. We're working through still on these. So in this diagram, and the main entry university is on the bottom of the screen. Terry is on the right-hand side of the screen. So entry vestibule, that block in the bottom, is the existing entry off of university. And the spaces that we've really looked at are the space in the center of the screen here. There's the existing mailroom, which is, as you can see, is pretty blank right now, as well as the existing offices on the right-hand side. And those are things that we'll be working through, trying to figure out what the best balance is between openness, security, and access. Again, the blue lines with the arrows are the main circulation paths. So you come from the entry. The first thing you see on the right-hand side is that reception desk. Or straight through, there's the connection to the North Tower, Anderson Hall, all of the spaces, Fireside Lounge, and through the promenade. And then on the left-hand side is that access to the Central Tower and to dining beyond, and then in the future to the West Tower, currently to the West Wing. So the spaces at the entry, one of the things that we were looking at was the creating a little bit more of that casual seating that's adjacent to the glass. In some instances, focused to be looking out the entry if you're expecting a ride kind of seating, or if you just, sorry. Let me try again. I kept jumping forward before, but yeah, so there we go. Okay. So this area is some casual seating, a little bit more facing out. And then, some of the seating in a similar fashion that's taking advantage of that south glass and connecting people visually to rides, but also introducing some things, what we've been calling a sustainable fireplace, which we've been calling a water place. It's a kind of a magical thing that has water that gets transferred into the appearance of flames. It's truly remarkable. If you go into Ballard, there's the shop in Ballard that has sells grills and things for outside. Sutter Home and Hearth, I think it's called. Anyway, they have them. For example, I have video if you ever want to see me sticking my hand in open flames. And then some additional seating at the side. That might be a place where you can stay a little bit longer. Someplace that has a table, you can sit and chat within that area. Also creating a little bit more seating near the entrance to the central tower and the elevators that are there. Formalizing a little bit, perhaps some seating against the wall in the northwest corner, although the art is so great there. There's a lot of discussion going on about how to get the right balance there. And then really trying to create a more open, and we'll see this in the renderings, a more open view of the resident services, the concierge, the reception, and giving them a little bit more cohesive work area so that, as you know, they trade off and help each other out a lot, and trying to create a better environment for them to be able to do that. In terms of the colors and the inspiration in this area, we've been looking at trying to create some more pattern, both in materials that might be used on vertical surfaces, as well as in here, something on the ceiling surfaces that might give a little bit more texture within that space as well. So you can see then this is the view if you're coming right in from University, that you'd be able to see head on the receptionist, and they'd be able to see back out to the doorway if people are waiting there. So if you look at where the reception desk is now, it's moved over a little bit to the west from the current location. Then the view back at that reception desk, if you were coming right out of the central tower elevators. So the main reception directly in front of you. I think the concierge is, I don't think they figured out, but resident services on one side, concierge on the other. And then this is the view of that water place, and the idea that there's a little bit more seating that's tucked closer into the entryway there. And again, places where you might have your coffee and be able to sit with it on a table in front of you, as well as relax in front of that other space. From a circulation viewpoint as well, it gives an edge so that there's not as direct a shot if somebody is coming in, going straight to the central tower that is trying to avoid seeing the receptionist. And then this is the other seating area on the east side of that entry area. So you can still see part of the reception services being over here in the corner, and then these chairs focused to the outside with, it could be, and this is again 2029. So we've got some time to think about it, but we're trying to figure out what was the right balance of potentially having water or a coffee urn or something that's out in that space as well. So that was a fast one. Maybe before we get to assisted living, your thoughts are welcome. And again, plenty of time to work on this, so.
And another thing to just bring up briefly is the comment box. Lauren, do we still have that comment box that's out there?
It is currently in my office, but it is going back out there.
Okay, and Lauren and I do read every comment. So if you are unable to ask your question here, feel free to use the comment box or, give Lauren or I a voicemail.
Okay, reminder for questions. Left, center, right, fireside lounge. Left, center, right, fireside lounge.
Does the fireplace open on both sides?
Yes, it does.
And what happens where do the offices go from the bistro area before that lobby area gets finished? The executive offices that are in the bistro seems to be a time lag there.
Those are going up to the second floor. So part of the reason, if I jump way back, part of the reason the construction for the bistro, it doesn't start until 2025, is because we have to finish the second floor renovation. So the memory care area will be emptied, will be merged with the rest of the second floor assisted living. Then those offices will happen. Yeah, so it's that puzzle thing. Yeah, before the bistro starts. That's right.
As most of us know here, we've had security problems. And I know that this is a long-term time in the future, and I hope our security problems are addressed before then, before 2029. But I can't see how this is going to solve those problems, because we have people who follow residents in and they just go straight through. They don't, you can't expect them to stop at the desk. I mean, this is assuming that everyone who comes in who doesn't belong here is going to stop at the desk. That doesn't happen.
So one of the features that Mithun is designing in is a much longer reception area, so that residents don't crowd the space between the desk and their eye line of sight of the lobby. So and we did consider putting the reception desk right at the vestibule, but it would be very problematic. I mean, it would really be a choke point, a bottleneck for people coming in and people wanting to get customer service. So, this design is hopefully to maximize the best of both worlds, provide lots of area for residents to come up to gain customer service, plus help preserve the line of sight to the front entrance.
Dan is saying that there isn't always someone at the desk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anybody who has a solution, I would love to hear it. I would really love to hear it. Lauren?
Do we have any questions on the west side of the room? No? Beth in the fireside lounge?
Oh, there's
Yes,
one in
we
fireside, yeah.
We have a question in the fireside.
A rather unsightly view in our lobby now is the grocery delivery, and I don't see a place where those carts can be stored kind of out of view until we pick them up.
That is part of the big blank box on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we've been trying to incorporate is a large package room that would include the grocery cart deliveries. Actually, somebody's wheeling a grocery cart right through the fireside lounge right now. I can see through the windows. Yeah, so that is something that's part of the spaces over there. We also feel like they're really unsightly, and we'd like to find a happier home for them when they're not in use.
Okay, back to the left.
This is a difficult planning situation because we're doing this and the West Tower is being contemplated and its exact design is not known yet, and it may impact what's going on. And there's the outside chance, very outside, that somehow it happens that that isn't completed. So I'm asking the question, if something unexpected happens, are we still glad we are doing all the things we're now projecting to do?
Yes.
I should say that the master plan projects were conceived of as being necessary prior to the decision to pursue the West Tower.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
correct. The idea of moving the executive row to a different location to the second floor so that we can have a larger bistro that doesn't have all of its design problems that it currently has, that was definitely well part of the master plan prior to the conception of the West Tower. Yeah, great question.
Any questions in the middle section?
One on the west side.
I'm a bit concerned about people coming in the entry vestibule and dodging to the left instead of to the right. They would be out of sight of the front desk.
Right.
Once they're behind that set of elevators.
Correct. And so currently we still have this column right here. Is this also a column that exists?
Yes.
So currently we do have these two columns and we have this wall here. It is an issue that our existing reception desk currently has. And so the key difference that I tried to explain before, right now, this portion of the reception desk that's being shown here, it's actually up here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're moving that forward so that they are in closer proximity to the front entrance. It'll be an improvement. It'll be an improvement. They'll be closer to it. But I think that by having this much counter space, it'll encourage residents to get their customer service in a way that it doesn't block reception's view of the front door.
Yeah, the other piece that I'll mention is that there's currently a larger wall here blocking view of the central tower elevator doors. So now what we're looking at doing is opening up as much of that as we can. So from reception, there's a direct line of sight to those central tower elevator doors as well. Because right now they're kind of tucked away.
And to Deanna's point is that if this is a matter of getting a better door, well, let's look into that.
We have a question in the fireside lounge.
Okay, and I think after that one, then I'll jump into assisted living, if that's okay.
It seems that there's plenty of space to have another little booth on the other side of the main vestibule with a security guard visible.
Yes, that was one of the considerations we had.
Yeah.
The issue is its operations. It's this design does not prejudice our ability to implement that if we later decide that's what's needed. So, but that is definitely a consideration. We were definitely thinking of instead of this being a seating nook, that this in fact could be a security guard station, or or maybe during the daytime, this would be a little satellite resident services location just to get staff very adjacent to the front entrance. And so the plan that Mithun has come up with, it doesn't prevent us from implementing that if necessary later. But we think that this is a good start.
Yeah, and we are so still trying to figure out what's going on there, because even last week when we were presenting to the excuse me, to the leadership team, there was just more discussions also about where to put, if we're expanding the mailroom, where does that go so that the volume of people after an event that's crossing in front of the reception desk isn't creating a bottleneck there, and also not creating a situation where they can't see the front desk. So it's still swirling around. It's just about
Yes.
the most flexible of all the spaces I say right now in terms of where we might go with
Yeah.
it.
And did Sean not say this is for 2029?
2029.
So we do have a couple of years to figure this out.
Yeah.
That's
That's another wheelchair storage. Yeah. Yeah. They're currently in so there's a couple of different places that we're looking at right now. Sometimes they're also out and about, but that's what that was anticipated for. Okay, I am gonna jump forward now to, so the second and third floor projects, as we mentioned, to one of the earlier questions, all of this sort of lighter green color here is those assisted living offices as well as the leadership team offices. So that's all work that's going to be starting more or less sort of early third quarter of 2024 for construction. So once they're moved in there, it'll be early 2025, and that's when the bistro construction will start. But the areas in gold here are what we're going to be looking at. Again, so there's improvements to the dining and servery area on both the second and third floors. The addition of an assisted living activity room in this area, which we'll look at in more detail on the plan, as well as the addition of what we're calling a living room, another small kind of private meeting space for residents in assisted living to meet with people, also for smaller events, very small events. So that dining room then, let's see, happening at the second and third floor. So one of the big issues, if for those of you who've been up in assisted living right now, the server is completely open to the space. It's very noisy when they're doing food prep and things. There's a lot of banging, there's steam, there's things that are not so convivial for the residents that are there while they're waiting or meeting people. And so one of the big changes that we're looking at in that area is taking the existing, there's a small area with a television on the second floor in the corner here, really taking that over to create a real servery cook line where they'll be doing final prep work on food rather than bringing it up from the second floor and just having it on heating trays. And then a small pantry area for them as well, which will alleviate some of the issues that were mentioned earlier with the staff having to go up and down in elevators and grab things from different areas. Some of that activity that you see today is because there's so much of the food that's being served on the second and third floors that's coming from those areas downstairs. And there is no storage on the second or third floor for plates and other kinds of things that they might need for food service. There is currently in assisted living across the south wall, there's currently a big kitchenette for people who are visiting to be able to put together food and help with things. That is actually being shifted to the north of that space and really becoming a little bit more part of this central servery cook line pantry food service area within that room. So that frees us up. There's we're adding an island in that space, which is for the assistants that are there helping residents to be able to grab food from, the hot food from the cook line, do a little prep. There's a little bit of storage space there for salads and things that are pre-prepared for them to be set up on a tabletop. And then there's in the space where the food, what do you call it? Kitchenette area is currently, there'll be additional chairs there. The other thing that we're looking at within that space is taking that south wall, which basically is a wall into a corridor today, and putting a series of interior windows. So these are windows that'll be from looking into the assisted living out towards the corridor, making it a little bit more part of the space that, you feel like as you're walking past, you're not right now there's like one little window and you can kind of slot in and see if there's somebody there or not, but This is a little bit more making it like your front porch where you might have windows out to the outside, even though it's inside outside. And that's happening both on the side where there's currently a kitchenette, as well as on the side where the one window right now is in this lower left corner, adjacent to the door that goes out to the outdoor patio. The door to the outdoor patio will remain. And in terms of the rest of the space, the seating, movable chairs and tables and all of that space as there is currently. And then what is right now called the private dining room for this space, as you may know, during the pandemic, it really became storage space for the extra food service equipment that was needed. So everything was in clamshells, everything was not being run through the washers and dryers. Oh, that's the other thing that's been changed up here is the area, there's the possibility of doing the dishwash on the floor where people are actually eating now, rather than all of that having to be trucked down in the back elevator down to the lower levels as well. But this other space up here on both floors is seen as a little bit more of a casual space, open to the rest of the space, separated by some planters, but someplace where you can relax and not feel like you're sitting at a dining table the whole time. So just giving a little bit more casual seating options within that area. The look and feel in those areas, again, working with natural tones, natural finishes. The inspiration on the second floor was tulips, and we'll look briefly or in a moment at the third floor where it's more hydrangeas. The warmer tones on the second floor and in the other amenity spaces on the second floor, and then slightly cooler in the dining on the third floor. And this is the construction on this is actually starting March 11th or thereabouts in the current thinking. So this one is pretty far along in terms of materials, finishes. We've met with some of the residents, both from assisted living and from independent living, to look at the design. We've also been working with our resident professional group on these spaces as well. But you can see really trying to bring a mix of colors, textures, some of it terrazzo countertops for the island in the space, which we'll look at in the renderings, as well as, again, more of the warmth of, or the feeling of wood, if not actual wood itself in spaces. So this is standing in sort of the corner where there's currently a kitchenette, looking to the northwest within the space. So you can see there is that this is the kitchenette that's been shifted over to that space. It's got the compost, recycling, and garbage bins set up for people who are working within that space. This is that freestanding island for the final prep work on food that might be coming out of the kitchen area. Kitchen area itself has big glass doors, glass windows between it and the main space. So the kitchen staff can look out, see the residents that are there within the space, but still keep the noise contained, except when we're actually serving the food, in which case those windows will open and then the assistants can serve out into the space. And then you can see the existing windows out to the deck in the corner there, and the openness now that we get in the space for that more casual seating. So that's one view. So this is a view back then from the northwest looking more southeast. You can see that series of windows, the interior windows that go into the corridor along here. You can see the other side of that kitchen island, and that it's actually got equipment and things in there, so that refrigerators and some other storage there. There's the door into the back of house space. And then here you can see this is that pass-through window that will open up when its service is needed in there. And then this is that the viewing area, that kind of alternative space that is available. It's actually on the plans, we call it on the second floor, it's the alternative alternate viewing area because the second floor includes memory care residents. And there's certain requirements that are a little bit different for that kind of visual access based on the state code. So this is a space that's also helping to serve that, creating a space that's part of your normal life that has either the ability to go outside or on a rainy day, plenty of big open windows to enjoy. So on the third floor, the layout is pretty much the same. The seating in that, now it's called the dining lounge on this floor, is again something that is probably going to be changed on a pretty regular basis if I know all of you. As people come in, or if you want to hang out with somebody, chairs and tables in Fireside Lounge move at a very rapid rate through the course of the day. And again, this one working in the same kind of spaces, but with a slightly cooler palette. A cooler terrazzo for the countertops, as well as then fabrics and some of the equipment having a slightly different color range. So same view from the southeast looking to the northwest. Same woman standing there. We've discovered that when you're working on senior living, the people that are normally come in our computer programs are not necessarily always appropriate. So Nina's been scouring the internet and actually creating people specifically for the project. So this again, then looking back towards those interior windows to the outside, you can see bringing in even some of that wood into some of the areas on the ceiling. And then this is an acoustical tile ceiling that's a linear appearance to it. The dining lounge area that we were talking about before, again, different types of seating that could be there. So one of the other new spaces, or one of the new spaces, I should say, is this activity room. It is currently in the memory care area. This is in the central tower. So this piece actually, in terms of construction sequencing, will be built a little bit later than the rest of the spaces because it's actually part of that central tower. And there's other work that's going to be going on both on the second and third floors to improve the heating and cooling in those spaces. And so it's going to be part of that work. But the idea of it is it's an activity room that can work with video capabilities for movies, if that's the case, or different classes that can be shown on a video screen. This is actually an image at our offices where we have a very large video screen in our main meeting place, but we don't want to see it most of the time, the 98% of the time that it's not in use. So we have big doors across the front of it that close it off. And it's the same idea here, that the television set, Ildiko was very particular about this. She did not want the television set visible unless she needed it. So that's something that we're trying to meet there. And then a lot of storage, shelving, sort of that woody, home-like feel of library shelves within the space.
Incidentally, a lot of these images that you see, for those of you who really wish that we would pause longer on each image, they will be, most of them will be available on poster form. And where will they be located, Lauren? The posters of these master planning projects?
So they'll be over here by the library.
Oh, still over by the library.
Yeah.
I thought we were
until I
moving them.
relocate them.
Okay, until we relocate them, they will be on that wall adjacent to Terry Avenue in the library.
And we are updating the ones that are there now with the newer information. Sorry, I shouldn't. So again, that looking at the natural materials and bringing color within those space, looking at the lighting. There we go. So this is a view within that space. Flexibility is key. These are tables that are on wheels, light stacking chairs that can be moved out of the way because of the number of residents that use assistive devices, that's something that will, be able to stack chairs in a corner or just move things around to be flexible in the space. The space has water, and as I said, some storage and things on cabinets. And then this is a view the opposite direction. So one of the things that we are doing within that space, I think everybody is familiar with the courtyard within assisted living. So it's the light that comes in from the rooftop. There's beautiful garden on the second floor level that you look down into from the third floor level. But it's got big windows that are along the walkway there. And so we're creating an additional set of windows and then the door to enter into this space so that you'll be able to share some of that view from within the activity room. It'll have blinds that lower for blackout when necessary for when there are things being shown on the video screen. And here another view into the back of the room showing that space. And then the assisted living room. Looks funny when you see it that way. On the second floor. So on the third floor, the main project is really just the servery dining space at this point in time. So this is in the space in the center of the building on the second floor that's currently occupied by the assisted living offices. So the assisted living offices are moving into the central tower and we'll have some direct access from there into assisted living. But we've taken some of that space and created another kind of living space with a storage cabinet, wall-mounted television. It's one of those ones that you can have artwork showing when it's not in use as a television electronically. And just a little bit of seating, a little bit of space for people to be a little bit more private, and additional bookshelves, storage, more videos, etc. on the wall behind there. Actually, do people still use videos anymore? I guess that's all streaming now. There we go. So the feeling, very similar, again, warm tones. This is on the second floor. It's borrowing from the tulip palette. There you go. This is that north wall of that space with the wood frame cabinetry. This is the hidden television set, which we'll just turn on. Again, windows from within this space to the outside that also have shades for privacy when that's needed. And then the back wall, the sort of library wall with additional storage and bins for different things, some plants coming into that space. And that's it. So maybe questions now on assisted living. Okay, there's a lot here, Beth. So
I don't see any on the left-hand side. So then we'll go to the center.
All right. And I do want to make one announcement. This is Monday and we have Monday Market. So anybody who does not want to ask a question or hear the answer, please go to Monday Market and spend lots of money.
Yeah.
John and I, John Geniap, my neighbor here, and I are daily down in the second floor assisted living area where we join our spouses that have cognitive issues and others with all kinds of issues for meals. And to be blunt, nobody take this personally, but the layout, and you're moving on to finishes and warm tones and stuff like that, I find, because we're emotionally involved in, let me just, I need to spin on for a minute here. It looks to me like it hasn't moved. You're still in the mindset of designing for most of the rest of us who are more or less ambulatory and can find our way around. I think what I find lacking here, I find it a disbenefit from the way it is now in several ways. I'll just demonstrate. All right, I think what I don't see the sensitivity to, again, don't take this personally, but it's just another phase that we need to move into, and you have time to move into it, and there's some of us that can help you do that. The most demanding, the people that work here, the people that live here have 10 times the issues of just coping. The people that work with them have even more that demands on them. They're the assisted living helpers, the ones that wait on table, that take care of you, take you back to your room and tend to your needs, have much more complicated and multiple demands on them than is the case, in the rest of this place. And if anything, as we watch this scene take place every day of people coming in, and this is an ideal time to observe it because they've taken in the people from memory care. So there's a lot of demands and they're coping. And each of the people that work here have several responsibilities at the same, they're all multitaskers, and they're thin spread and always will be. And so they're watching so-and-so to make sure that they're eating and not getting into trouble and so forth. And I guess one of the major problems is that the relationship between the dining area here and this area here that you've taken out, the TV room, if you will. The TV room is actually a vital, current, central part of all of our lives. And as people finish eating, they take themselves or are taken here and put in a position where they can watch. And actually the kind of programs here are quite sophisticated. And even those of us who don't have cognitive issues enjoy the kind of programming there. And the ability to bring people down here and seat them in a place and this relationship here that, anyway, there's a lot of work to do. And I'm hoping you'll involve some of us that are close to it.
I assume it's the same topic, John?
Yeah, I can't even imagine this working at all. I can't even get close to understanding because, because most of the people that are up there need visual supervision at all times. And I don't see how that is happening because some of the people may be eating and some of the other people may be wanting to sit somewhere, but they can't go all the way over to the activity or to the, what do we call it, the dining area, living area, without somebody, staff, supervising them. And I just don't see how this is going to work when the staff now is overworked and multitasking, feeding people, trying to watch who's going over there and who's getting out of their chair and who's going away without their walker and all that kind of stuff. I just can't see how this is going to work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we have, and this is not an exaggeration, since 2018, we have had, I would say, at least 8 focus groups on this topic since 2018. The most recent was, we had about 8 residents maybe a month ago. And, but we work on a weekly basis with, pretty much a weekly basis with staff who work up here. And so we're using their input.
Eli, I think
yes, Bob.
So
Just a
minute. I think we need to cut this short because John and I, and I'm sure others, find that this is not working at all. It's worse than it is now. There's all kinds of other complications that I didn't bring up. And you may have had a million focus groups. It's not working. And let's just have some other conversations about how to get this back on track.
Is it safe
later.
to say that we can have, you and I can have more conversation about this? Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this, we still have a couple of months, yeah.
You can wheel people down to this activity room to look at it. It's not working.
Okay.
Let's reorganize the focus group.
So Jim
Okay.
Hitter also has a spouse in assisted living, and he has a comment.
Sure.
I not only back up what Bob and John have said,
I doubled down on that. This is an unworkable setup here. You don't see the crowds of people who are gathered around the mealtime tables. And a lot of these people, my wife, for instance, has to be fed each and every spoonful. And if you don't have shoulder space, the kind of space, a table for 6 people is an unworkable table because that person in the 2 people in the middle cannot be fed and encouraged and so on. And the
Briefly, the people in the middle are the staff. These are the staff sitting in the middle.
Okay, so there's less.
And those are all 2 tops that will be put together.
Yeah, okay, but to back up what Bob and John have said, right now, the transport from the TV room to the eating spaces is fairly short and sweet. It's fairly close. But to imagine that these people, as they finish dinner, being wheeled down the hallway to that, what looked like a small TV room. I mean, right now, there are probably a dozen people who sit every day watching this TV or doing exercise classes or listening to a travel log in those smallish activity rooms. It's just completely unrealistic. I cannot imagine that this would work at all.
So one of the biggest complaints that we heard from before, and it sounds like all 3 of you just completely disagree and share a different opinion, is that when activity is going on in the kitchen, it is just too loud.
Not at all. Not
Okay.
at all.
All right. It's always good to hear other opinions, yes.
Whoever had opinions about that, they were probably more sensitive than some of us. You cramp this vital corridor here where people, the staff, are moving back and forth, and some of them have responsibilities to 2 people here that they're hand feeding while their other resident is over here having some problems, and you've constricted this. And even now, just the circulation of wheelchairs and all that has to be negotiated carefully, and you've made it more cramped. I think we should close this off, frankly.
Well, and what I really hear is that despite the different opinions, we need to have more conversations. Yeah, regardless, no matter what. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, and here's Ildiko. Ildiko,
Yeah.
what do you have to say about all this?
Yeah. Well, give her a microphone, please.
I accidentally showed up at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think that's my 6th sense.
Yeah.
So what they are talking about, it's only the physical environment.
Ildiko, can you move over in front of the light?
Yeah, come here. You'll be on
So
camera.
what they are talking about, it's only the physical environment. Like yes, but we have like 5 other components to see the whole picture, how everything is going to be supported to make this new environment work.
But it doesn't work, Ildiko. Save your breath. We need to sit down and have conversations with you and the others that are involved, plus some that are intimately involved in what's happening, like the 3 of us described. And those are not being responded to. And I don't want you to take it personally. And we need to begin a new conversation.
And I would be more than happy to have that conversation because we have way more information behind this than just a physical layout.
We need to hear that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to start the week with such a high stakes. Tomorrow morning in this room at 9 o'clock, we're gonna have 53 children from St. Joseph Catholic School to sing Christmas songs. That's probably gonna be more cheerful.
Yeah.
It's an important conversation. Tomorrow we'll be glad we had it.
Agreed. And Bob, I hope you understand this. For as long as you've known Horizon House, we don't, I can't think of a single time when we've heard this type of reaction and not did something about it. Right. Yeah. Oh, yes. We can all have confidence here. Yeah.
Okay, I have one question over here.
Very, very quickly, I just want you to remember, while all of your designs are of the moment and very thoughtful, I want you to give a thought to remember using Scandinavian colors as well in many places, particularly to discuss the possibility in the assisted living areas. Just think of the beauty of simple flashes of color. That's it.
I think the appropriate response is Yashor Yabetcha.
What did he say?
She wants you to repeat it.
Yashor Yabetcha. No, neither am I, but I bought my house from Scandinavian, so I'm a Ballardite, Central Ballard.
We have one more.
Before we wind up, would you go back to the original master plan schedule and emphasize the times and places that there will be construction going on?
Oops. There we go. So second floor and third floor, the servery work, as well as most of the other amenity spaces, with the exception of the activity room, will be from March of 2024. And it's about 4 months, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So into the summer. And then the second floor and third floor central tower work will be starting summer of 2024 and running close to the end of the year, with the activity room construction also happening in the latter part of 2024. And then the bistro would be starting in early 2025, also run about 4 months. And then that will be set up and ready to roll for food service. And once that's ready, then the dining would start in mid 2025 and also run about that same period of time. And probably in that time frame, we'd be doing a little bit of refresh work in the lobby as well. And then the last construction start really would be in 2029 for the lobby renovation work. Okay. Well, thank you all. Those of you who are left and haven't run down to Monday Market, yes, thanks.